Hi, Denise. Welcome to the show, Empowered. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to share what you're doing in the world, the work that you're doing, the work in the mental health industry, and your speaking and your book, Heal Your Body by Mastering Your Mind. Such a powerful book talking about the chakras, talking about energy, how we can heal our body through our mind. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So tell us where it all began when you decided to write the book. And I know in the book it tells the background, but can you share with the audience a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I started my career as a critical care nurse. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the body is it's very good about communicating what it wants or what it needs. And in medicine, that's either through pain or some sort of a symptom. And then years went by, and I decided that probably my body was not going to physically be able to work 12-hour shifts and call and so forth. So I went back to school to go into therapy. And one of the things that I found really puzzling about psychology was to me, it really didn't make sense. Why some people are anxious, some struggle with depression. Like it all just really didn't make sense. But as I started to see case after case after case, I was noticing a lot of what I thought were coincidences. I thought, wow, it's interesting how a lot of times people who struggle with trauma have back pain. At the time, I was working with a psychiatrist, and I said, I've made this really interesting correlation. And he said, what's that? And I said, between mental health and physical health. And he said, well, you need to really study energy, study the chakras. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I went back to my computer and I Googled chakra the best that I could and started to read. And from there on, it all made sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all energy. We're all energy. It's so
Mhm.
amazing. So what happened then? You were just passionate about learning more and more and you decided to share in the book?
Yes. And interestingly, I really wanted to understand why certain religions or people sort of gravitate toward religion. What is it about spirituality that people seem to need, particularly in crisis? I started working with a shaman. I became a hypnotherapist. I got certified and a master in Reiki and really started to dive in more and more and more into energy, working with some energy experts. And from that point on, it all started to click. And now when I see clients, obviously I'm seeing them for psychological problems, but it's very apparent to me very soon into our first session why they are physically the way that they are and why they are struggling mentally the way that they do. So for me, teaching them how to sort of interpret the body's symptoms is a wonderful and powerful way for them to heal themselves.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I had a woman on the show. She's had MS. She was diagnosed 20 years ago with MS, and she's healing women with
Mhm.
meditation and different movements and becoming friends with their symptoms and just really powerful, powerful stuff. And it's all connected, like everything. I had another hypnotist who was on that was a nurse, and I'm just learning more and more about it. So, did you personally have any health problems that you went into that field? Or
Nothing
nothing
per
per
se. Certainly, I'll talk a little bit about in the book about some certain particular health problems that I had. For example, I had a hysterectomy in '09. And it wasn't until years later where I went back to that time when I was having all those problems and I connected it back to what I was going through psychologically.
mm,
So,
powerful. Yeah,
yeah,
it's incredible.
very much so.
Yeah. So, when you have clients, tell us you're in Sarasota, Florida, and you work also virtually, correct? Yeah.
Yes, I'm licensed in the state of Florida, and then I took a second set of boards so that I could be licensed nationally. So I see clients from all over the United States. So it's really very convenient that I can log in and speak to people all over the United States.
That's amazing. And when did you start public speaking?
I've always done some public speaking. I feel like that's a wonderful way of giving back to the community. So at first I was just speaking locally at different events and so forth. And now I have some national engagements. It's becoming a little bit more of something that I've been doing probably for about the last 6 months to a year. Really enjoy it. It's a way of really doing one to many.
Yes,
Teaching mental
yes.
health.
And mental health is a big thing that's happening right now. I was going to share with you that two of my son's friends took their life within a year. These are in their 20s with, good looking, smart, everything. And to me, it's a horrible tragedy. It's mental illness, obviously, or, so it's definitely an issue I wanted to get your input on. I feel like it has to do with culture and other things like fear of living their life the way they want to live their life. Perhaps it's just intuitively, I feel that could be it, fear of judgment of others, all of that. But do you have anything to say on these young, people that have everything, the future is in their hands and they just in too
Yes.
much pain, too much emotional
Yes.
pain?
We're also noticing that the number one cause of death with first responders and police is suicide. So not only are they like we think that they're sort of have a lot of danger out on the street, but it's actually in their personal lives. And I really am trying to spread awareness about mental health
Yeah.
because the mind, the mind communicates to the body. And what happens when we sit in misery and we feel like we have no options, it's a very low vibrational energy and we're miserable. If we're physically as ill as we get mentally, we almost wish sometimes if we ever have a bad flu, we feel like we're not even going to make it because
Yeah.
we're so mentally the same thing. The body gets so low in vibrational energy and we can't even think of an option. We think, well, the only option for me to get relief is to take my life. I also have lost 4 people in the last year, friends, my son's best friend, to suicide. It's something that we really need to, as mental health providers, we really need to step up and do a better job.
Yeah, we really, really do. And the one, I mean, he was a family neighbor. My son was friends with him. He was a senior at Dartmouth and
Mhm.
good looking and all the things. And it was just devastating. I was devastated. I didn't know him that well, but he was a wonderful person. So, yeah, I just wanted to ask about that. And then, how can we prevent the kids from doing this? How can we spread awareness? What can we do?
Well, me personally, what I'm trying to do is I'm doing more podcasts, more videos, more mental health awareness. But I will tell you, we're very quick to go to a doctor if we don't feel well. But I have clients all the time. I had, I think, 3 this week that were in their 40s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, had never seen a therapist and had layers and layers and layers of trauma.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet, as I said, we're very quick to go to the doctor. We want to get better, but mentally we just struggle and struggle and struggle and keep stuffing it in, and the body will eventually manifest physical symptoms from it.
Exactly. People are numbing the pain with alcohol,
Mhm.
drugs, sex, all the different things that they can
Mhm.
do. And, food, whatever, it's definitely a thing. So I wanted to ask more about the book and the chakras, so you could educate some people that perhaps aren't aware of the chakras in the body, the different energy.
Mhm. I was going to say, you brought up something that I really feel like I should sort of recap. When the body is not at ease, so when we have a lot of what they call low vibrational energy in the body, anxiety, depression, anger, whatever that is, the body really gets stressed and the body does, whether or not whatever we're stressed about is true or imagined, the body doesn't know the difference. If we're not mindful, these are where addictions and attachments come in nicely because the mind becomes very active and the mind wants something quick. So we go, oh, I'll just get some cake, or I'll just smoke some marijuana, watch a little pornography. It's one of the questions that I ask when I meet with people because I want to know what they're doing for ease.
Yeah.
Interestingly, not so many hobbies.
Yeah. So how are you helping your patients that come to you with, I mean, I was looking at your website, you're helping so many different people, young people and relationships, everything. You're doing so much. Um, are you implementing like what kinds of tools and techniques are you giving these people that are using marijuana or using pornography or what kinds of,
Well, when I first meet someone, I ask probably, I would say a dozen, if not 15 questions, and I go fairly quickly because I don't give them paperwork ahead of time. I really want to understand what they're doing and what they're struggling with, yet I don't want to spend their entire session asking them questions. So I go fairly quickly. I tell them if I'm going too fast for you, slow me down. First thing I want to know is what medications they take and how they are doing physically. I used to start with, are you healthy? And they would all say yes, but then they would give me their dozen medications, which told me that they're not so healthy. So as a nurse, I've learned to reverse that, ask about the meds, and then I know a lot about the health. I want to know if they're religious. I want to know like if they're spiritual. I want to know what their hobbies are. I want to know if they have good friendships. You'd be surprised how many people really don't have many friends. I want to know if they have any trauma, what their family history looks like, parents divorced, where they moved from, because most people in Florida have moved from somewhere else.
yeah.
Asking if they have any learning problems. And by the time I'm almost finished, I've asked about smoking, drinking, marijuana, if they've ever been arrested. By the time I'm all the way through, usually in about maybe 10 minutes or less, I already have a very good understanding of what's going on mentally.
Mm,
Just by putting this puzzle together very quickly, I guess my years of being an ICU nurse have helped me with that.
mm-hmm.
And once I understand what's going on from the history, I ask them to tell me a little bit about what they're hoping to get from counseling, because I'd like to hear their story. I've got a good understanding of the body, and then they start to tell me what they're struggling with. With couples, I have found that a lot of couples attach to each other dysfunctionally. I
Mm-hmm.
always say two broken people don't make one whole person.
Right.
And so they come to me for help, yet a lot of what brings them together is really unhealthy.
Codependent.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like attachment styles,
Yes,
things
yes.
like that.
Another thing that I ask them when we're all finished, when I'm doing my history, I want to know how they deal with stress and conflict. In the book, I have little animals, and I actually have something here where I show them little animals just so they can sort of correlate. And it makes it a little lighter when you're talking about something that's a little, you have to be a little vulnerable about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So do they erupt? Do they have a hot temper? Do they hold feelings in and not speak?
Mm,
Do they call everybody that they know when they have a problem?
right.
Do they blame other people? Children, developmentally, that's normal, but obviously when we get into adulthood, we need to take responsibility. Some never learn that.
Yeah. Yeah. So important. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So how do you take care of you? Like it came to mind. I mean, how do you help these people and then go away and take care of you and not take
Mhm.
in all of that? Like, how do you protect yourself, if you will, from the energies and
Mhm.
take, I know that you do boxing, which is
Mhm.
wonderful. We all need to
Mhm.
move our bodies and take care of our physical body that way. But what else do you have a personal meditation practice you do? And
Mhm. Well, a lot of things. When I was an ICU nurse, people who are either physically or psychologically ill, which I had physically in that my first part of my career, now it's more psychologically, they pull energy, they're energy pullers because they're sick. And I understand that obviously they're coming to me for that reason. So that's sort of my purpose. But I don't want to recommend them to do something that I'm not doing. It would be very hypocritical for me to say, you need to meditate, you need to get your rest, and then I'm not really doing that because I feel like that would not serve them well.
right.
I start every day off with meditating. I'm a very spiritual person, so I also spend some time during the day with, again, in meditation and sort of a prayerful type, I guess, environment. I exercise probably about 6 days a week, and I would say for like an hour. Boxing is one that I do. I play some tennis. I practice yoga.
Wonderful.
It's something that I really incorporate into my week, knowing that not only do I have to balance what I do, but also my own stress.
Absolutely.
I'm also go for monthly massages. I go to the chiropractor. I go for acupuncture. All of this to sort of stay well.
Nice. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So did you want to share a little more about the chakras for people that don't
Yes,
know what we're talking about when we say chakras?
sure.
Yeah.
Well, we have 7 main chakras, and so I'll try to go through them fairly quickly. For people who are listening, you're gonna have to somewhat visualize because I wish I had, we could see it, but I
Yeah.
can describe.
You can Google it. Most of my audience is, I would think would know about it, but there's plenty that
Okay,
don't.
sure. So the first one and very important one is grounding. It's located at the base of the spine. And this energy really forms in childhood. Hopefully, we live in a home where we learn rules, maybe cultural traditions, and so forth. Parents, hopefully, are very good about giving us a lot of confidence. If you ever go to a pool and you see a bunch of kids who are like 8 or 10, it's all, watch me jump, dad, watch me jump in the pool. This is very important for their grounding so that they feel at peace and they feel secure and they feel safe. Unfortunately, some of us haven't had that luxury. Grown up in maybe where there's been addiction, maybe there's been a lot of tension in the home, maybe there's been trauma. And what happens with a lot of people is over the years, growing up in that kind of environment, the personality sometimes can morph. And these are where we see a lot of personality disorders like narcissism and borderline personality and so forth. Some just hold trauma. And interestingly enough, that I see is they'll get out of their home, which is very toxic, and they get right into a toxic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Although this is, you would think that they would want a break from that, they tend to, it's very familiar to them and they seem to continue the pattern.
Right. Yeah, that's the root
Physically,
chakra, the root
yeah,
chakra.
that's the root.
Yeah.
Physically, how that manifests or can manifest when that energy is blocked for long periods of time. Autoimmune diseases like lupus, MS, fibromyalgia is another one.
Digest.
Celiac is another. Depression is there. Rectal problems, back problems. A lot of that sits in the root.
So how does one know if, I mean, do you believe, Denise, that every physical symptom manifested from an emotional, or is there physical ailments and symptoms that are not related to emotions?
I think emotions, what happens when energy becomes blocked, because when we struggle with whatever we're struggling with, we block energy in the body. Disease or illness is looking for an opportunity to do its thing, to replicate. So let's say I have a lot of anxiety, which is in the heart. Okay, so I'm now prone for breast cancer, heart problems, lung problems, actually shoulder problems, anything sort of around that heart area. See a lot of breast cancer, and before they were diagnosed, they struggled with a lot of anxiety. There's
Mm,
other emotions there too, but what I'm looking for is why the body is manifesting physical symptoms.
mhm,
What emotional problem has sort of enabled that or
mm.
contributed to that?
Have you heard of Louise Hay?
Mhm,
Okay, yeah, that was the beginning, like her book, Heal Your Life, and Gabby Bernstein were the beginning of my pretty much
mhm,
spiritual journey. But Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Life and Love Yourself, Heal Your Life, are phenomenal on
mhm,
exactly what we're just talking about, actually.
mhm.
Um, where the dis-ease in the body. So, okay, so you're saying the root chakra and then the energy block. So it's sounding to me from your response that you absolutely believe it's all connected 100% and there's no,
I've never seen it. I've seen like tens of thousands of cases. I've never seen it not match up.
wow.
Interestingly, in medicine, because I've been a nurse now for over 30 years, when people would come in with a physical symptom, it always made sense. It never was like, wow, this is like coming from nowhere. If you ask the right questions, and this is the difference between a really good diagnostician and somebody who really doesn't know what they're doing, they know what questions to ask and they know how to narrow it down very quickly to decide what is going on in the body.
Incredible. So, I don't know if you knew this about me, but in 2011 and 12, three doctors diagnosed me with fibromyalgia, and I knew
Mhm.
that was not the case. And I went to a rheumatologist, and he did a physical exam and told me I had fibromyalgia. And I had a bag of supplements that I took every day to support me. And I said, "You're going to tell me from a physical exam?" He says, "Well, I can draw blood." I said, "Please do." So he drew blood, and it was Lyme disease. And he said Lyme disease was rare in Michigan. I was in Michigan at the time. And I believed him, and he said he had to do the additional Western blot test. And long story short, I had a pharmaceutical rep friend. He's like, "Look into that Lyme disease, look into that." And I did, and all the puzzle pieces fell in place. And I joined groups on Facebook, and all these people have been to all the doctors and read all the books, and they knew everything. Anyway, the long story short is that I did have that, and I struggled for 4 years. I used, spiritual, medicinal, I did everything herbal. And then I was in 2016, I was in a workshop and I started to cry. And the guy says, "You identify yourself with Lyme disease?" And a light bulb went off. And I went straight to my MD alternative doctor at the time. And I said, "I want you to draw blood. I'm done identifying and calling myself this person." And so she did. And the Lyme was negative. I was just done. I made a decision that that's not me anymore. And I quit alcohol for 2.5 years. And I'm currently also alcohol free. It'll be 2 years in July, just by choice and being a health, choosing that it's a toxin and I don't feel like putting that in my body. Um,
Mhm.
and there was something else, if I had listened to the doctors, I could be, taking all kinds of medications, and who knows if I'd even be here today. I knew intuitively it wasn't that. But yeah, I have yeah, I'm just saying I do have the trauma stuff. I've peeled layers and layers. I've been doing this work since that was the catalyst, that illness.
Mhm.
And then in 2017, I started hiring spiritual coaches. And that's also how I've grown and evolved, and all the things.
Well, skipping around a little bit on the chakra, since you
Yeah.
mentioned alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol, I have to skip a chakra because now we're going to go to the solar plexus, to the belly. So the emotions that are around there are fear, very sensitive to criticism, our personal power. It's the relationship that we have with ourselves. Trust is there, which is why we have a gut feeling when we don't trust someone. And what the body will do when we block energy there in the belly, we either overeat, don't eat, or drink alcohol. Those are usually the three things that I'm wondering if they're doing. Certainly, I see diabetes sort of manifest from there, a lot of stomach problems. So I'm looking for
Yes.
gallbladder. Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
looking. So once I understand what the body is doing, I'm again almost rewinding the tape, and I'm wondering what emotions that they struggle with that are manifesting in overeating or drinking. And any alcoholic that you've met or people who struggle with alcohol say, I just don't have any respect for myself. I did
Mm.
a year in substance abuse and learned so much about it's not what they're doing, it's why.
Yeah.
What are they trying to find
No.
ease for?
Right. What pain are they numbing? But when
Yes.
most of the people are coming to you, Denise, they're coming to you for mental illness. Like they're saying, "I'm struggling here." I'm like, they're basically coming to you for this, but then you're doing your questionnaire and you're getting the physical stuff as well, is what you do, right? Yeah.
I'm doing a comprehensive evaluation. I'm understanding from the body how it's manifesting. And certainly what I probably see the most, or I see a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And so what we know with the mind is when the mind, it has a lot of low vibrational energy, it's very active. So what are they holding that's causing a lot of the anxiety? And a lot of it's fear. They fear things that they don't even know are true. I
Right.
worry about this. I feel guilty about guilt and fear and worry are three things I wish I could just pull out of people because it really holds us back from enjoying our true authentic selves and our happy life.
what we're here for. I mean, we're here
Yeah.
for joy. And I want to
Sure.
go back to something about the
Mhm.
therapist. When you said all these people that are coming to you, a lot of the people in their 30s and 40s have never seen a therapist. That was me. And it's literally programming from the parents that like didn't believe in it. And,
Mhm.
or whatever. I mean, I had on my last birthday, I tell this, I don't care. I'm vulnerable. This is who I am. Honestly, my authentic self. But I had some emotional things show up. So I went on BetterHelp and I got a therapist and I saw her for a couple months and then I'm good. But like that's why I asked about you and what you offer, because I think you're more aligned with me than she was. But anyway, so do you listen to like, who's your mentor? Who do you like and listen to podcasts, people? Do you have any books or mentors that you recommend or that you?
Well, I belong to something called Mind Valley. So it's mindvalley.com. I take a class on there. You get a year membership, and I take a class. I probably listen to an episode or every day. I also have a lot of mentors. I have a therapist that's not only my therapist, but also a mentor. I have a very good friend who's a shaman. I've been a very good friend who's an energy healer. So I call it my toolbox.
Awesome.
And depending upon what I need will depend upon whom I call.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing that, because Gabby Bernstein is one of my favorites. I just saw her live and in person a few weeks ago in Tampa. She wrote 9 books. She's going on her 10th. And she'll tell you, even though she's all the things, successful marriage and
Mhm.
business and all the things, she's like, I'm in my therapy office every Wednesday at 5:30. And she says it. And I just love that, that we can, this is powerful to say it's okay. We all have a therapist, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's so powerful. That's one of the things that I love about Gabby is that she makes everything like it's okay. She's a recovering addict. She's like, there's nothing's, all my shame or my past. I've come a long way from all the things because I didn't have the, ideal upbringing. It's like, it's all fine, it's all good. We
It's true.
heal, grow, and tell us about the therapy dog, because I saw the dog in the picture in your book. Tell us about him or her.
Well, I first had a therapy dog by the name of Max, and he worked with me for, oh gosh, years and years and years. And right around 15, he passed away, he got sick, he passed away. And now I have Henry. And Henry's a little cockapoo. A lot of people will pick me for a therapist because of him, because they feel very comforted by a dog.
I love it.
He he's a certified therapy dog, but he barely passed. I mean, he's all love and he's not very well behaved, but people just love him. He's a
That,
hugger.
that's
So,
amazing. That's my
mhm,
lucky. Yeah, I actually registered him as an emotional support animal for a few
mhm,
reasons, but he truly is. He is.
mhm,
He's my emotional support animal. I mean, I was done having dogs when my last one passed away in May of 21, and then everyone was saying you're going to get another dog. You're a dog person, and it's a long story. But I started fostering, and that's what happened. So I have him.
mhm.
What else would you like to share and explain? Do you want to cover the other chakras? So the belly chakra we just talked about, which one is that? So we have root, that's the low.
Yeah, I didn't do the second one, which is sort of over our bladder
Okay.
area. The emotions in that area are power and control.
Mm-hmm.
So those of us that have to have control and so forth, that really takes a toll on that area. Money issues are there.
Mm-hmm.
Blame and guilt are there. We have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of issues with that. And what I will see manifest from that area, if you just sort of go under the, bladder problems, a lot of with women, menstruation, infertility.
Mm,
Classic story with that is people will try to get, a woman will try to get pregnant. She can't, she feels guilty. It's terrible. And then next thing you know, they adopt and then they're pregnant.
right.
They do that energy sort of opens and next thing you know, they're pregnant.
Like they surrendered, they were
Mhm.
trying and trying, and then they surrender, and then you get what you want when you let go and allow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about the heart. We talked about the stomach. The heart, certainly there's wonderful emotions there. Love, compassion, forgiveness, anxiety will cause it to block. Anger is very hard on the heart. Bitterness and resentment are very hard on the heart. So what we see with women, lots of breast cancer, heart problems, lung problems, allergies, asthma. So I'm
Mm.
looking to like how the body is starting to show symptoms. An interesting one is to the throat. When we feel like we're not heard, when we can't use our voice, when we can't follow our passion, that will block. So I see it manifest a lot with thyroid problems, teeth problems, gum problems, jaw grinding. You know, people or clench their teeth and they have jaw problems.
Okay.
That's what I see
And
a lot with women, a lot of thyroid issues.
right. And then how are you helping people with their, I mean, I guess you kind of gave us your like the meditation and different,
Mhm.
what can people do today that feel that they probably have some blocks? What can they do to open up the energy?
Well, there's lots of things. One of the things that I really help people to do is to learn how to communicate and handle challenging situations with ease. I think people feel like when they speak up, they have to be mean or they have to be right or they have to be validated. And so a lot of it is really helping them with communication, helping them learning how to express themselves with dignity.
Mm-hmm,
So that
mm-hmm.
they walk away from a person and they've honored them, they've also honored themselves. If we're not at peace, it's hard for us to communicate with assertiveness. We want to be right, we want to let somebody have it. Actually, that's a sign that we're not at peace, that we're not grounded.
Yeah. I mean,
So
where does self-love play into all this? Because I feel like that's such a foundation for everything is once you feel the self-love, you can heal, like you can heal your life because you
Mhm.
don't have to worry what other people think and get everybody's approval and you just know that you're good, you know? I've
Mhm.
worked on that
Mhm.
for years.
Mhm.
But so tell us what you think about the self-love.
One of the things that I sort of start with that is I believe that we're all on everyone who's on this earth, that was not a coincidence. We come here, we have a dharma, we all have gifts, talents, and abilities, and our purpose is to make the world a better place with our gifts, talents, and abilities. Certainly along the way, God or the universe needs to help us sort of cultivate all of this knowledge and purpose and so forth. But we're human beings, so we have to have a lot of lessons and we make a lot of mistakes because we're not perfect. Many times when we do that, we hold it. I'm not good enough. I should have known. And so we just sort of take all of that personally and we don't move forward. I must not be smart enough. This person said this about me. It must be true. And what I draw for people is a circle. And I say, decide what you want in that circle. Who are you? What what are your values? And once you're really clear on who you are, it shouldn't matter what people say.
Mm,
But it
so
can be really tough because people will rely on other people. They like we call that conditional energy. You have to like me so that I feel good about myself. And it's like, well, if I like me and I'm good with my values, I mean, if you like me, it's great. But if you don't like me, that's okay too. It's a
absolutely.
good, it's a good way of getting, I would say, getting other people that don't align with you to move on, which
Mm-hmm.
they will when they realize that you're not going to be manipulated by them.
Yeah, exactly. And so one thing that came to mind, so you were saying that let me understand what you were saying earlier. You said something about pulling energy from people. I wanted you to elaborate on that. You're saying if you are not well, you absorb other people's energies?
What I was saying is if we are psychologically not well, so we have a lot of low vibrational energy in the body, jealousy, it could be even grief. Sometimes that's a very low vibrational energy, anxiety, depression, resentment, bitterness. If I come into your world with sort of that aura and I just start to talk to you, I'm going to be pulling energy from you. I'm going to tell you how awful my life is, how no one
Oh,
respects me, or whatever I'm going to say. And you may be very kind and compassionate and listen to me, but when you walk away from me, you will have felt the pull.
got
This is
it.
why drama people can be very, very toxic.
Yeah.
Even if you go to a funeral home where everyone is grieving, obviously it's a pulling energy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's exhausting. I mean, you're there to support the family, but they're grieving, so they have very low vibrational energy in the body. And although we're trying to be supportive, we're also just as happy when we get home and can go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
afterward.
Yeah. The reason I mainly asked is because I know I'm an empath, and when I associate with those low vibrate, it affects me. And I was like, oh, does
Mhm.
that mean I'm sick? Does that mean that I need so much healing because I absorb other people's, I have to be very mindful of who I associate with. Like, I do not hang out with a lot of people intentionally until I find people that are equal to or greater than my energy and what I desire to be around. It's like playing sport, my son playing hockey. You want to play with the better players if you want to be better. And like, I feel like I'm not hanging with people that drink and party and, or just
Mhm.
gossip or any of the things that just complain, all of that.
Yes. When you find yourself sort of in that situation, because sometimes you can't avoid it, you have to be mindful not to attach to it.
So like saying a prayer to protect myself, or how would you not attach? How do you set the
Well,
intention to not?
what I do when somebody is complaining and like let's just say I'm out somewhere and I meet somebody, they're complaining. What I do is I hold space for it. I'll say something like, it sounds like that was really frustrating for you. So I validate what I'm hearing from them,
Mhm,
because after a while, there's no place for them to go. I mean,
mm,
they'll start to complain and I'll say, gosh, that I can see why that would be frustrating, or I could see why that was really disappointing. And after a while, they realize that you're not giving them the space to sort of to continue to go and
and
go and go.
you're not joining in
Yes.
like a
I'm not
loving time.
attaching. I'm not saying, I know she's such a jerk. I can't believe she acted that. I just go, gosh, I'm really sorry you had that experience. I feel bad for you or something like
Oh,
that.
that's great. So you're validate, you're compassionate, and then it takes dissipates or
Well, right. It actually gets very neutral. I come in with a very neutral energy. What I do want to do is I want to acknowledge that I hear them. In shamanism, they say aho, which means I hear you. And
something.
because I can, obviously they're disappointed or they didn't feel validated. Somebody made them feel bad. And
Mhm.
I want to acknowledge that because I hear that and I know that that was hurtful.
Yeah,
So I want to open my heart to them, but I also don't want them to dump it all on me so that I have it now.
got it. So thank you for that. That was helpful.
Mhm.
So what do you think of the breath work? I had a guy on, he's a fruitarian and he does breath work, like,
Mhm.
and it helps a ton of people. And we forget to breathe a lot other than when we're in meditation, maybe like,
Mhm.
and once after my episode with him, this was back in December, I started doing it when I wake up in the morning. And it was like, wow, it's just like wild. I mean, this is life force. This is like
Mhm.
available to all of us. And also a woman who was a recovering alcoholic, she has her own podcast, Sober Bartender. And we were talking, and I said, well, what do you do when you're needing that drink or like frustrated or, and she's like, I go and I breathe and just take breaths
Mhm.
instead of having the drink.
Mhm.
So what do you use that in your practice, the breathing?
What the purpose of breath work is, when we're stressed and when we're overwhelmed, we're in our sympathetic nervous system. So we're in our fight or flight. When you do that sort of deep breathing and however they do it rhythmically, it will force the body to go into parasympathetic. It'll force somebody to just sort of shift, which is, we also go into parasympathetic when we drink alcohol. We kick back and or we smoke cigarettes. All of a sudden we're like, ooh, this is great. It's just with the substances, that's not a healthy way to get into parasympathetic.
Hmm.
The breath is a
Oh,
good it and you see kids do it. Like when they get really frustrated, they'll go like, and then we go, don't do that. But I mean, they're trying to get balance. So
it's self-regulating. It's helping to self-regulate. And that's
exactly.
really, so it's, to me, it's a healthy way to do it. Yeah.
It's certainly it's what they would call ahimsa. It's nonviolent. It's the same way we get with like yoga or tai chi. It's a way of going into sympathetic and allowing the body to just sort of correct itself
Mm-hmm.
with the breath.
Yeah. Did we cover all the chakras yet? Let's see. We did the root.
Let's see, we didn't get to the third eye. The third eye is intuition. Most of us have a fairly open third eye, unless we're extremely closed-minded and we only listen to our own opinions or I've seen it close with developmental problems. So we've had some challenges with that. Most of us have an inner knowing. I said this in my latest book. We pretend that we don't. Like a lot of times intuitively we realize that this person isn't good for us, but then we don't, the other chakras are blocked and then we allow them to come into our lives or we overlook a lot of things.
What is
So,
your latest book? You have a different book?
oh yeah, it's called Insightful Self-Therapy.
Nice.
Mhm. I took a whole bunch of subjects and just wrote like a daily read for people.
Where is that available?
It'll be on Amazon tomorrow, and 50 copies came to my door yesterday.
Perfect timing. Yay. Okay.
So,
So we'll put that information in the show notes too,
yeah, that'd be
and
great.
where everybody can find you. And let's see. So we did, so the third eye, and then there's one
Let's
more,
go to
right?
the seventh. So then
Oh,
the seventh is our connection to the divine. And I will ask people if they're religious, and many say not, but it's important that we understand that there's a universal law. You know, I always say, okay, if God's not doing it, the universe is teaching us. And it's when we can sort of understand that lessons come to us, setbacks come to us for meaning, it takes the sting out of it a little bit. You know, the universe is trying to help us learn. Maybe it's God for some people, maybe it's the universe. For me, it gives me a lot of peace knowing that I don't have to do this by myself.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just got a book from Marianne Williamson. Do you like her work? Do you know her?
I really don't follow a whole lot of other people other than the people that I work with
Oh,
or, you know,
okay. Okay. Well, anyway, it's a powerful book on weight loss, but it's like it's very, very interesting. I just got it
so.
today, actually. But I like her work. But back to the crown chakra and the connection to the divine.
Yeah.
Um, so if someone comes to you and they are not spiritual, you just kind of, what do? You tell them to think universe, or if they're
Well, certainly I have to be a little creative because with therapy, you have to know when to push and you also need to be very mindful of when to sit back and listen.
Mhm. Got it. That makes perfect sense. I know that could be a challenge. I am working towards being more into spiritual mindset coaching, and I have a course I'm starting in the fall that's going to be 8 months long, certifying me. And I feel qualified today since I have so many years of investing and so much that I've done and healed and grown and evolved. And I help people in the different programs that I'm in. But anyway, do you believe that when we're talking about lessons, life lessons, that every perceived negative experience, there is an underlying blessing?
Oh, there's an underlying meaning. And let's just say that it comes and we ignore it or we don't want to do anything about it,
Again,
which, you know, God gives us free will or the universe. And so that's great, but the lesson will come in a different way, usually with a little bit more momentum.
mm,
And I see it happen over and over and over again. It like they'll ignore it in their personal relationship, but then the same theme happens at work, or the same thing happens, you know, outside of work. So what I say to them is like, you know, is this is something that you need to sort of find meaning and wisdom and knowledge, and then keep moving forward. For me, when things just block and shut down, I realize I'm not supposed to pursue that and I just go a different direction. I
mm,
trust it.
yeah, yeah. I
I used
just,
to fight it.
yeah. My son's actually been my hugest inspirational, like spiritual teacher, actually. He just was the beginning, like I was raised with no religion and basically found, I always believed in God, but now I'm very spiritual, and it's so comforting to know that there is a higher power and that you're protected and you're guided and you're led and supported, because we all are and we're all worthy. I had a rabbi
Mhm.
on the show too, and I asked him, like, and he basically said, he's a Jewish rabbi, and obviously but he said, when you wake up in the morning, it's a blessing, and that
Mhm.
means God has faith in you. If
Mhm.
you are here, you are worthy. If you are
Mhm.
here on the planet, you are worthy. And we're all worthy. So I think a lot of us walk around with self-worth issues, like a
Mhm.
lot of it, the underlying self, not feeling like enough, like we talked about a little while ago. And it's just very challenging. So
Mhm.
um let's see. So we covered all that on the chakras, and
Mhm.
then your book, Healing Your Body by Mastering Your Mind.
Mhm.
That's a lot of meditation. How do we master our mind? And then I have one more question.
Okay, well, in the book, the first thing that I do, well, obviously after the introduction, I talk about each chakra. Then I did a case study, how I use this knowledge of that chakra, and so I wrote about a case that I had. Then after that, I wrote my own personal story, how I have struggled, because I feel like people think that just because you're in the field that you don't struggle. And
Mm,
I wanted people to know that I'm a real person with real struggles. So I did that with every chakra as I went through. When I wrote the book, I wanted it to be an easy read. I wanted people to start to hopefully want to heal. But you can't really fix what you don't acknowledge.
mhm.
So that was my first book. This second one, I took topics that I really felt like were powerful. And I wanted, again, a short read. People don't want to read 100, 200-page book. Many don't. And so this is just a daily read. It's like 22 chapters. I talk about personality disorders. I talk about grief. I talk about trauma. Just a quick, maybe 10-minute read per day.
So here's the last question, and it comes from someone
Mhm.
else, not me. And he
Okay.
said, can you give some advice for someone who's new to the spiritual energy space that wants to learn more about themselves and begin their healing journey?
Mhm. Well, the first thing that I would really encourage that person to do is to meditate. And a lot of people struggle with meditation. They say, well, if I just sit there, all I do is my mind just wanders, and then I'll listen to a guided meditation, but I don't feel like I'm absorbing it and so forth. So I tell people how I meditate, and certainly it's a personal decision. But what I do in the morning, as soon as I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I get back in bed, and I sit straight up, because if I get back in bed, I'm likely going to fall asleep. And I imagine a particular color. So let's just say blue. And I imagine it like blue smoke, so a blue, and I put it in my heart. And I just sort of like put this blue smoke or blue energy in my heart. And then I put it through my body, and I can actually like feel it going down my legs. It's funny if you really sort of think about it, how you can sort of feel like your fingers start to tingle. And then I allow that blue energy going into my bedroom. And I bless my husband, I bless the dog, and then I put it through the whole house. Put it in I have an office here. So I put it in my office, and I call this my Zoom room where I am in now. But I go through the whole house, and then I sort of let the energy go out into the neighborhood. I take it down the street and out the door into Sarasota, mention some people that I know that maybe could use some light, love, and healing. Then I go up the East Coast, mention some relatives. Then I
Mhm.
go across the United States, mention a couple clients or people that I know in maybe Michigan or Minnesota. And then I take that blue color and I put it around the world. And I bless the whole world. I say, like, may you find peace. May you feel God's love in your heart. May you bless someone with your gifts, talents, and abilities. May you all be well. Then I do a little bit of gratefulness, things that I just safety, my gifts, talents, and abilities help me to be a better person, help me to, as I work with people today, channel through me words that I need to say. I imagine my perfect day, and then I put my hands out for whoever wants to hold them. I'm like, okay, anybody wants to come down? And I just asked for us all to work together, for me to do more for the greater good. And then I put my hands on my heart and my stomach, and then I open my eyes and off I go. I would say 15 minutes.
So it's like a meditation, visualization, and
Mhm.
prayer all in one.
Yes. Because
Oh,
if I find that I just sit there, like going through my grocery list, like I can't seem to quite focus, but that color visualization, and as I take it all around, and I'm very busy with it, obviously I've gone all around the world with it,
mhm,
but it sort of keeps me on track, and it also keeps me very mindful of why I'm sitting there for 15 minutes in quiet.
mhm, mhm.
So,
How about diet, real quick? But eating, what do you incorporate that in your with your patients? And also tell us a little bit about, are you like vegan or you eat?
no, I eat everything. Personally, I eat on a schedule. So I have breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, and usually nothing after dinner, only because at all times I want to have a little bit of food in my body, because when I work with people, it takes a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm,
So I'm
mm-hmm.
very disciplined to make sure that I eat. I certainly, if I go to a birthday party, I'm likely going to have a piece of cake. So I'm not, I don't eat this, I don't eat that.
Right.
When I am stressed, I'm also mindful not to eat too much sugar,
Mm,
because that causes a lot of energy, and the body automatically wants sugar and carbs.
right. The minute you
So
feed
I'm
it that, right? It just craves more. Mm-hmm.
well, and I'm mindful of, why do I feel like I need those or that? And then I go, okay, let's try to sort of address the problem, not just keep going to the refrigerator and eat until I feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was
So,
gonna share. Something powerful was said in this Audible book that I was listening to earlier, and she basically said, and it could be, pretty extreme, but it resonates, but she kind of said that overeating is self-hatred. She said it's a sign of self-hatred.
well, again, it's the relationship with ourselves is in the solar plexus in the belly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and so what I know with overeating is it's a symptom that something emotionally is not at ease.
right. Yeah.
Self-confidence,
And
personal
basically
power.
she talked about not that food is not going to heal or satisfy. It's God is going to be that. Like, we look to food for emotional support to feel better, when the only way we're going to feel better is God or healing, healing, whatever that is. Yeah.
We we look to something in the environment to come in and make us feel better, but actually the healing needs to be done from within. In fact, my first book, I titled it originally Healing from Within. When I got it all finished, and then I realized that the title was taken, but because that's what I felt was really important, that we do the inner healing, and then all this other stuff just goes away, because the
Mm-hmm.
body doesn't need it. The mind thinks the body we need it, but if the mind is healthy, the body won't go to those things.
Yeah. And then self-compassion is so huge too these days, where we all like beat ourselves up. Like, say you do overeat, then you have the shame, and then you go ahead and do it again to punish yourself. And it's just this vicious cycle that I know that a lot of women have. And one thing I'm s- teaching is that the minute you want to be critical is when you need to give yourself the most compassion.
Mhm.
And that when you want to say, I should have this, I should have that, is when you go, okay, you're wonderful and you're trying your best and you're doing all the things, and just give yourself credit. We're so critical, especially as women.
But what I look at is when someone is overeating, it's take a minute and go, what is it that I'm looking for? Am I looking to feel better? Am I looking, because we likely don't need to eat. We probably have already eaten. And it's a time to just have awareness. We can't blame the body for eating or drinking or smoking. The body is just stressed because emotionally we're not at ease. So let's take a minute. look to see why that is, and then let's look to correct it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Like a relationship with yourself, and it's not about that.
Same thing with alcohol or marijuana.
Yeah,
It's why the body is going to what it's going to and what it wants to balance.
right. Well,
Body's trying to get back in
yeah,
balance.
self-awareness is so powerful. And if you know that
Mhm.
you're, doing what you're doing,
Mhm.
like knowing is key, right? Is knowing that it's being aware.
Yeah,
So,
being aware.
yeah,
It's a symptom. So
yeah,
why is it like when I was in medicine, it was why is this person have this symptom? What's going on with the body that they're whatever is happening? Emotionally, when we're doing what we're doing, particularly when we're going out into the environment to get it, what does the body need? Why is the mind so active?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And how do we correct that? Because the mind doesn't like fear. So the mind gets very fearful and then we panic and then we go eat because we don't like that
Right.
fear.
It's like protecting, yeah, fear for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the mind, what we have to understand is we control the spirit, like the soul, like we control the mind, we control the body. Some
Mhm.
people want to eat, some people do intermittent fasting. My son does it every day. And the body's physically hungry and he's like, "No, I'm in charge, I'm not,
Mhm.
it doesn't need food, right? Or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, some people eat by listening to their body, but and like we get to control here, and it's just powerful, like with Gabby's teachings, and I do as well. We get to choose joy. We get to choose what we think about, It's like these people who dwell in the negative, which I know, I understand, but I've mastered that. I've mastered to be able to shift and choose a better feeling thought. To notice the
Well,
thought and choose a better feeling thought, because I get to choose to be happy every single day if I want,
yes. And
But
high vibrational energy is love, compassion, forgiveness. And then we push energy out. I talked before about pulling energy in. When we have high vibrational energy, we look after people and we call and check in on people and so forth. It's just a symptom that our vibrational energy is high because we're not thinking about ourselves.
yeah, yeah. And
When
then,
we're, well, I was going to say when we're low, all we do is say, I'm nervous, I'm guilty, I'm worried, me.
right.
Well, high vibrational, it's you. How are you doing? How are
Yeah.
you feeling?
Yeah, that's kind of like the opposite of depression is purpose. So when you are in this down state, it's like go help somebody else. Go walk a dog at the shelter. Do something for someone else and you get out of your own way and your own head and your
Yeah,
own victimhood or whatever you're doing.
very
But
true. This is
yeah,
why friends and hobbies are so important
yeah, yeah.
because then we shift the energy to doing for somebody else or enjoying like with any sort of hobby, the mind will take a back seat. Like
Yeah.
crafts and stuff. We don't sit there and go, "Oh gosh, I'm so nervous about this craft." We just do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. It could be, anything that takes you out of here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Think anything else you would like to share with everybody?
No,
Okay.
I'm certainly I'm available if anybody would like an appointment. You can book directly on my website. I'd be happy to
Yes,
help.
we have your link. We'll put your links in the show notes and they can follow you on Instagram and social media
Mhm.
and LinkedIn. And
I like to say therapy is the gift you give to yourself.
I love
Mhm.
that. That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, we all are worthy of it and deserve to do that for yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and when we do for ourselves, we have more to do for other people, which is really the purpose of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Prioritizing self-care is not selfish. It's definitely a thing to do to be the better parent, the better spouse, the better everything, right? Employer,
Mhm.
employee. When you
Yeah.
take care of you, you have more to give.
Well, it's hard to fill somebody else's cup if your pitcher is empty.
Exactly. Yeah, such a
So,
powerful end to our
mhm.
conversation. Thank you so much
You're
for this
welcome.
beautiful conversation. I know we jumped around a little bit, but I think the most we got across what we really wanted to convey to everybody. So thank you for everything you're doing, Denise, in the world. That's so awesome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.